Hi, welcome to an Abeka 101 conversation on the topic of 6 steps to success with State History 4. Charlene, I love fourth grade for many, many reasons, but one of the best parts about fourth grade is the state history study. So I'm glad we get to partner together today to have a conversation with those of us who are joining us to learn a little bit more about how to be successful with this part of fourth grade history. My name is Amy Yohe. I serve in 2 different roles that complement each other in a really neat way, but I serve as both the managing editor for Abeka Publishing, so I get to work with product development teams. But then I also serve as the principal for Abeka Academy. So I do work very closely with our homeschool teams as well. Charlene, tell us what you do.
I'm Charlene Milner, and I work in the marketing department, and I come with a little bit of background with homeschooling for 18 years. So I'm very excited to be here today.
That is a fantastic background that's going to be beneficial to our conversation today. So what we would love to do is help you see through these 6 steps how you can prepare to enjoy the journey that is the fourth grade state history study during the 2nd semester. Those lessons start in lesson 86 and they go for about 30 lessons to lesson 115 with the project due in 116. And this can be a delightful time of learning alongside your child and completing a very special project that we're going to get to look at some examples of. So let's just jump right in and look at the very first step to being successful with State History 4, and that is before you even get close to lesson 86, or if you're close already, that's okay. Stop where you're at and let's overview your journey. So we're going to look at this as a journey, and we'll start out by overviewing it. Now, for those of you joining us today, we need you to grab something that we have with us. If you are an Abeka Academy video family, then I want you to grab your 4th grade homeschool video manual.
And if you're parent-led, we want you to grab your Homeschool History 4.
Both of these have excellent resources. We'll be showing little snippets from them on screen. They won't be large enough or up long enough for you to be able to read them. So I think it'll really help you if you can grab your copy and follow along. We'll give you some page numbers along the way that will hopefully be a help to you. So let's overview the journey by looking at those products. First of all, looking at page T23 in your 4th grade video manual, and then looking at page 130 in your Homeschool History 4 curriculum lesson plans. And what we're looking at here is a brief, very brief in the front of the video manual, kind of synopsis, overview, I guess is the term that we've already used, of what are we doing in these 30 lessons. For those of you that use Abeka Academy videos, these lessons largely are not taught by your 4th grade video teacher, Miss Amsbaugh. You as the parent are going to get to come alongside your child for this special 6-week study and learn together. We'll tell you a little bit more about how that works with the video part in just a few minutes, but this is going to give you an overview. And then in the video manual, if you dig just a little bit deeper into page F9, you're really going to get that strong overview of the state history study and how you can develop a 6-week state history and geography course. Overviewing this journey is going to be so important along the way, because here's what you're going to do. You're going to have, for those of you using video, you're going to have a brief introduction from Miss Amsbaugh that will introduce each of those 30 lessons, but then the majority of the lesson you're going to be teaching your child. Of course, those are our customers using the curriculum lesson plans and parent-led, you'll be teaching all parts of it, and those curriculum lesson plans will walk you right through it. You're going to be exploring together your state's history, geography, and culture. And there's really 2 significant parts of this. The first part is the teaching and learning, where you're discovering together portions of your state history, but then there's also a project that you get to complete, and that is the My State Notebook project. Now, this project is the culmination of your state history study. It's the application where your child gets to demonstrate everything that you have taught them during the state history course. So it's not that this is going to be your lesson guide every day. It's not. Your curriculum lesson plans are going to be your lesson guide, and this is kind of like your worksheet in arithmetic. This is what you do and complete after that instruction has taken place. And it'll be an exciting project that your child will not only enjoy doing, but they're going to feel a real sense of success.
Pride.
Pride of completion. that they've done something on their own. So you're going to enjoy using that product to be successful.
And Amy, I want to add in here also that this is the opportunity that you're going to have a keepsake of your child's 4th grade year. That is something each year I tried to find one thing that I was going to keep in my little treasure box, if you
Yes.
will, of what my child has done. So
I
this is
love
a great
that.
one.
And we brought a couple of examples with us today, and I would agree with you that this completed notebook, now you'll see some similarities between the one that I'm holding, which is the one that's going to match what you received in your kit, and the one that's here in a binder. And we're going to talk you through how you get from this to this. But I would completely agree with you. We have done 5 of these so far in our household with 1 more to go. And so it is a wonderful keepsake and something to look back on. So you're going to enjoy that journey. So your student's going to demonstrate what they're learning through that notebook, but have confidence too that they're also going to have those formal assessments that they're accustomed to. There are going to be quizzes, there are going to be tests. Short-term accountability, long-term accountability to make sure that they're gleaning everything that they need to throughout the study of that course. So know where to go for those overviews. And you know, Charlene, when I read the front of something like this, I don't always understand how all of those pieces fit together, but later as I'm working through the project, you'll think, oh, I remember reading that. Now
Yes.
that makes sense.
And always go back, always reference those pages. Don't feel that you have to memorize everything that's here. That is not your test or quiz.
If you notice ours, we've got little sticky notes flagged on the side, and you might do exactly the same just for a quick reference as you walk through the 6-week study. So overview your journey. That way you'll know where you're headed. Next step to success with State History 4 is going to be to know your path. To reach your destination, you've got to follow the path one step at a time with either your video manual or those homeschool curriculum lesson plans as your guide. They're going to help you to prepare the necessary information and materials each day and give you confidence that your student is learning state history and will be prepared to complete that My State notebook along the way. So let's look again at those tools that you have with you, your video manual or your curriculum lesson plans. And we're going to look next at page F13 in the video manual and page 133 in the homeschool curriculum lesson plans. And what we're seeing here is, in addition to the 6-week overview that we just looked at, along the path, you're going to get a weekly overview. So every 5 lessons is going to start with a brief overview that says, in the next 5 lessons, this is what you'll be learning. This is what you'll be accomplishing. I love that because I like the little bite size. Okay, I know where I'm headed this week. You know what else I love about Abeka is how flexible the plans are. And that's really why we give a weekly overview, is because, you know what, we planned certain things for lesson 86 and 87 and 88 and 89 and 90, but you know what, you might want to organize that differently. Right. You might want to combine parts of 87 with 86. This is going to give you that weekly overview so you can kind of decide how you would like to organize these lessons.
Absolutely.
Lots of flexibility along the way with these. So know your path along the way and be able to utilize those resources like the weekly overview. Now let's go just a little bit deeper. If you're using your video manual, turn to page F14. If you're using your homeschool curriculum lesson plans, turn to page 134. Now we have stepped from that weekly overview to lesson 86, the very first lesson of state history, and we're going to start to see exactly what the steps are, both for preparation, and then also on that page you're going to see the teaching procedure that you need to follow. So as a parent, oh, I love this first part. Do you see right there under that lesson 86 heading, it says objectives? That's going to tell you the academic objectives for this lesson. What is it that your student should be able to do at the end of this lesson as a result of the instruction that you've given? So you've got a little bit of a tip there of what you need to do to make sure that your student is capable of doing that at the end of the lesson. The next part gives you an idea of things that you could put up on the board. Or if you don't have a board in your homeschool environment, it could simply just be a piece of paper, a term. It could also be a digital presentation. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. Now, notice here that it's not telling you exactly what to put on the board, because we wrote this for all 50 states. So we didn't list every state bird or every state tree or every state flower or whatever the focus is for that lesson. We've just prompted you to put up the terms that you think would be most helpful to your student. Visualizing those terms helps to make them memorable. So don't forget to use that important tool. Next, I see materials, and there are several things listed. And then I see with that visuals and several things listed. And those things either were included in your kit or they're labeled as optional items that you could pick up if you want to utilize those resources. But know, have the confidence as you look at the path that these resources are going to tell you exactly what you need to prepare for each day. You don't have to be concerned that you're going into this without good direction. There's lots of tips to help keep you on course throughout the study. Something else that I wanted to show you, I mentioned this to you earlier, and it could be a little, I don't know, is intimidating a fair word? I'm a teacher, but I'm also a parent, and I don't have the homeschool experience that Charlene has, but we homeschooled for a season. It was called COVID, and we homeschooled for a time, and so I think it could be a little bit intimidating, especially if you're accustomed to using the quizzes and tests provided by Abeka, which you probably are if you're a video customer, and you likely have had access to those, even as a parent-led user. Well, we want you to be aware that we are going to help you with these quizzes and tests for state history, but they're going to be completely customizable for you. Again, we want these resources to work for all 50 states. Those of you who are international students, you're going to select a state that you want to adopt to be your state during this study. And we're going to give you, it really is a type of template, but I wanted you to have an idea of what those tests look like and what you're going to do to customize those tests. Do you see in that very first section, you've got some questions there, and then you've got a terms box that's empty at the bottom. If you saw other assessments in other subjects earlier in the year, there would have been terms filled in those boxes for your student to choose from. But again, what state are you living in? It's going to be different from the state of someone else who might be watching. And we know that you're going to need to go in and create this word bank with terms from your state. And then those will be answers that your student could choose from to answer the questions that are provided. So you'll want to put the correct answers for the questions in this section in that terms blank, but then you'll also maybe want to put a couple of distractors just to help your student to be sure that they're not just guessing, but that they know the information and they're choosing the right answer. So go through and think through what your student is going to need to have access to as far as that word bank is concerned. Keep in mind as well that as you're working through this, that you're going to need to create a key for yourself. You may notice that in the footer it says maybe reproduce. Well, you're going to need to reproduce it. Right. So make a copy for yourself, and then you'll have an answer key, just like you had with history in the first semester from Abeka. And then you'll also have the student copy with the terms box filled in, but obviously your student will be able to fill in the answers. In the second section there, similar questions, but it's multiple choice. Well, you're going to have to determine the correct answer and place it somewhere in A, B, C, D, and then you're going to need to give 3 distracting answers that aren't the correct answer, but plausible answers so that your student can choose the correct answer from those terms. Again, don't forget to make yourself a key with the correct answer noted in the student blank. On the back of this first quiz, there is places for a map. One of the things that students are going to learn in the first several lessons of the state history study is map locations in your state. Well, you're going to be deciding along the way which cities are most important for your student to be familiar with, which rivers or mountains or deserts or whatever other landforms and waterways are in your state. You'll be determining along the way which ones of those your student needs to learn. And then when it comes time to take a quiz or a test, you're going to need to provide in that big box a small map of your state with those locations marked, a dot perhaps for a city, a line for a river, perhaps a triangle for a mountain. You can look at the maps that you've had in your other portions of history and get some ideas, and then you'll want to letter those on your map in that box. And then you'll go up, and in the blank to the right of the number, you'll need to write in the names of the locations that you want your student to identify. And when they're taking the quiz or test, they'll be filling in the letter that they see on the map that corresponds with the name that you have filled in on the blank. And that'll just consistently carry through as you work through the quizzes and the tests for state history. So that is just part of knowing your path. Let's go on to step number 3 for success with state history, and that is gather the necessities that you need. To successfully teach state history, you're going to use the lesson plans that we have provided for you, both in the video manual and in the homeschool curriculum lesson plans. But there are going to be other things for you to gather about your state. So you'll want to find reliable websites. Charlene, I was thinking about .gov sites, .gov. Those are typically like Florida.gov is going to be the Florida. That may not be the exact web address, but the idea being that when you go and look at sites that end with .gov, those are official sites for your state, perhaps your city, your county, our national government. But those are going to be reliable sites for up-to-date information. If you're looking for population or the area of your state, different facts like that, those sites are going to be very reliable. Travel brochures. If you can go to a welcome center, if you live close to the state line, if you go to, is it a rest area along the interstate? They often will have travel brochures. And ask others too who may have done this study before, where did you find reliable sources of information that you needed along the way? So you'll want to have those kinds of resources, and not only for you as the parent to teach the information, but your child is going to benefit from those resources as they start completing the pages in their MyState notebook.
And you can also do a little field trip here. Just get them in the car. We're going to get prepared for our notebook, our state notebook, and take them down the road and get those brochures, get those maps.
Yes, and sometimes there's just little hidden historical places along the way that you've never taken the time to stop and explore. And you can do that. Project. We actually did a Florida vacation, and we went to St. Augustine. Of course, we live here in Pensacola, which is very historic. We were in Orlando. We stopped in Jacksonville. So we were able to take pictures of them in various locations around the state, and then that was fun to be able to put those
knowing
into the
that
notebook.
This was coming up.
Exactly,
for sure.
exactly. And so I say that not because I don't want you to think, oh my, we start this in a week or we start this tomorrow. I can't go on a trip around my state now. It's okay if you don't have that resource this year. We know so many things can be found online, but perhaps you've got another child or more children along the way, and that'll be an opportunity perhaps to think about for future projects. We're always thinking ahead as mamas, aren't we?
Absolutely.
So you're going to be gathering your materials and just walking through what is needed. Now again, don't worry about not feeling sure what brochures or what materials you need for each day. If we take another look at this slide of gathering necessities, we're going to see specifically in lesson 90, it's going to list for us exactly the materials that we need for this particular lesson. So it's going to tell us that we need the MyState notebook. It's going to tell us that we need a certain map. It's going to tell us if we need to gather information or pictures about particular things that apply to our state. So don't be concerned about having to figure that out for yourself. That's been scripted. You just have to go find those things that are outlined for you on these curriculum lesson plans. Hopefully we're making it easy. You know, Charlene, I was thinking, I could envision, and you and I talked about this earlier, moms are going to tackle this differently. Dads are going to jump in and help in different ways. Grandma or grandpa might be helping. Some are going to do all of this research ahead of time, maybe the evening before, after fourth grader has gone to bed, and then be ready to teach these lessons the next day. Some are going to sit down in front of the computer with their child and be searching these websites and exploring those things together. And what a wonderful opportunity to teach online safety.
Yes.
Reliable sources, so many opportunities. So there's not just one way to tackle this.
Yes.
There's lots of flexibility and
when you said website, I apologize, cut you off there. Yeah. When you said website, I said to myself, just beware.
Exactly.
Beware of little eyes.
Exactly.
What they may see.
That is so important. And this is, I mean, this is the age where they're starting to get more independent and they're wanting to access things and they're wanting to use, well, let's be honest, it really happens a lot younger now, doesn't it? But they're wanting to use the same resources that mom and dad use to find information. So what a great opportunity to sit with them and just help them navigate and understand how to safely use resources like that if that's the way you choose to do it. If you do it a different way with all printed products, that is great to know that you can customize. So after you have taught this particular lesson and certain facets of your state history, at the end of just about every lesson, the assignment's going to be to complete or at least begin completing certain pages in your My State notebook that go along with the facts taught in that lesson. So in this particular lesson, we were learning about our state flower and our state tree and our state bird and our state symbol. Notice that there are pages right in the book that are going to capitalize on that. So after you've sat down with your child and you've taught them about the state flower, now at the end of the lesson, it's okay, turn to page 29 and I want you to write a sentence for me telling me what the state flower is and what you learned about it. And they're going to be able to independently recall the information you've just taught them and be able to fill that in.
Absolutely.
And then there's little spots along the side for pictures as well. And you'll just see little tips that will be covered up when you glue or tape your picture right on top of that. But that's just going to help to keep things in line along the way, constructing a project that your student can be proud of. You'll see on this other page, page 31, it says My State's Symbol. Now this one's a little bit different. These other ones we just had room for 1 or 2 sentences. Here's an example where they can do some cross-subject integration, take what they're learning about composition in language class, in writing class, and they can write a little bit longer of a paragraph about their state's seal or symbol. But the tip for success here is gather the necessities. Gather up what you need to be successful in teaching your student through these lessons of state history. Number 4, take advantage of the extras. I wanted to let you know of an extra that as a teacher mama, if I was teaching this to my child at home, I would want to have this resource. And it is the State History 4 digital teaching slide. So you can go to abeka.com, you can search State History Digital. That's all you need to put in. It's going to pop up right there in the search bar for you. And you are going to find the opportunity to purchase this resource, which are pre-made PowerPoint slides that follow the curriculum lesson plans exactly, yet they are completely customizable, completely editable to be exactly what you want them to be. So this package is going to include a tutorial, which tells you everything that's in the package, a template. These are the designed slides with no text on them, so you can do whatever you want with them. Then there are 30 lessons of customizable lesson slide decks. Again, the sequence of the lesson is there, but it's completely editable for you to do as you please with them. Then you'll notice down in resources, there are teaching charts. These are digital images of the maps. And then we've got state outlines. Now, I referenced earlier that there's a map on the quiz or test that you need to use. You're going to be using that in your state history study long before they have to label it on a quiz or a test. So just make sure that you realize that this contains state outlines for every state, all 50 states. There's an outline version and then there's a colored in version. So you can use those as you please for the map study or just to brighten your PowerPoints. Here's an example of the Lesson 90 digital teaching slide lesson that has already been pre-filled in with particular things from the lesson plan that you have. So it reminds you to review your U.S. states and capitals, gives you the page numbers, review the presidents of the United States, reminds you of the page numbers, gives you the same maps that the curriculum lesson plans call for to be reviewed, so you can review those with your child, and then prompts you for the areas of state history study that you'll do in this lesson. In Lesson 90, we're first going to talk about the flower, the tree, and the bird. So there's an intro slide for that, and then there's a blank slide where you get to fill in whatever the state flower of Iowa is, whatever the state tree of Idaho is, whatever the state bird of Illinois is. We'll use the I states today.
I was going to say, you just got all the I states there.
The teacher in me had to alliterate that. Then we'll move on to symbols and songs, and Indiana can join the party now for that. And you will just fill in whatever those things are that you want to talk through, walk through, teach your child. Again, that's before they even get to working on their My State notebook. Here's the slide that says, okay, you've taught, and this is going to tell you what pages in My State notebook that you need to work on in this lesson. Pages 29 and 31 and 111 is what you're going to work on completing, and that's going to follow your lesson plans exactly. And then it's going to finish with a reminder of what the homework is for this lesson, and also any reminders to continue working on. For instance, this is a reminder about the whole project being due in lesson 116. So those are some tips of things you can take advantage as far as some extras along the way. Now, this is a 30 lesson project, so step for success number 5 is to observe the checkpoints. We've talked about those weekly overviews, and there are some important checkpoints along the way that will just help you make sure that you're staying on track with completing this project. In your video manual, it's on page F10. In your homeschool curriculum lesson plans, it's on page 131, but this will give you an idea of each week what section should have been completed the previous week, and you would be able to flip through your child's MyState notebook before it's all taken apart perhaps and put into a binder, but you would be able to flip through and make sure that all of those pages are completed, and if they're not, then you can, well, I'll tell you what I would do, grab those sticky notes and I'd flag the pages and tell my child, those are the ones you need to complete. You're a little bit behind. Let's get caught up on the weekend so that we are prepared for that next checkpoint the very next week. So observe those checkpoints. And as you're doing so, start thinking about whether you're going to put your MyState history pages in a binder. Now, you could just leave them all right here in this bound book, and that would be perfectly fine. Or you may want to tear them out, 3-hole punch them, and put them into a binder, and you could be doing that along the way at each checkpoint. So you simply need to decide what you want your finished project to look like, and that is completely up to you. But your journey will be more enjoyable if you stay organized and on track along the way, so use those checkpoints to help you with that. Well, we're at step 6 for success, and guess what? We are completing the journey. So now we're ready to arrive at our destination. As you complete your state history study in lesson 115, I believe it's going to be due in lesson 116 in those lesson plans, it's time to assess your students' completion of the MyState Notebook project. So if you look at a certain page in your video manual or in your homeschool curriculum lesson plans, you're going to find in Appendix H for the video manual and page D11 in the homeschool curriculum lesson plans, you will find a grading sheet. And this is going to help you be able very easily to award your student points for each section, even each page that they completed with the compositions that they wrote, the labels that they filled in, the pictures that they mounted. You'll be able to fill those things in along the way. And Charlene, I almost feel like I've kind of glossed over the creative portion of this. So obviously there's lots of opportunity along the way. I suppose we could look in this one, but lots of opportunity along the way to be creative and to add things in, and pictures can just be cut out and mounted, or they could be, mounted on a piece of construction paper and placed on the page.
And I think what I would say here, parents, mom, dad, grandparents, let your child be the one that's creative. I am super creative, and I tended to go and say, oh, well, what if we do this and turn it this way and add this border and then add this color? It became kind of my project versus their project. So I had to take a step back. So you can direct the creative, but don't dictate the creative. Let them be creative, because you're gonna look back on this and that in their 4th grade year, you're gonna say, this was their work, not mine. So it's very easy though, creative mamas, to get really involved. So try and let them be the one that controls this project.
I love that tip so very much. I think it'll be fun just right there. Since we're just about finished up, we have arrived at our destination. But I think that's such a good tip, because this can be such a memorable time of working alongside your child. And as creative parents, or as trying to be super organized parents, we can stress about the details, that if I'm not careful, I can shift that stress to my child.
Oh, all the time.
But I want them to enjoy the project. I want them to look back at it with good memories.
Absolutely.
I was reminded as we were flipping through there, and I hope I didn't do that too quickly for you to be able to glean a few things, but there are some fun pages in the back of the MyState Notebook, very last page, 123 and 124, that just have fun little decorative items, little push pins, little labels for the photos, and actually they're also available as a download online, and there's a note both in the video manual and in the curriculum lesson plans that if you want to print more of those, you can do that at a certain place on our website, Rebecca.
Absolutely.
So they can just be the little enhancements. But, you know, in a classroom of students, I taught upper elementary for many years. I had 32 students typically in my classroom. Everybody's notebook turned out differently.
Yes.
And that's what I wanted. So know that this is not like a typical, you know, complete a comprehension check in your book and everybody's got very similar answers or something like that. This is so open-ended for creativity and flexibility. And you can be the uber creative parent or you can be the more simple and not so creative parent, but turn out a good project.
And you know, Amy, when we talk about 30 lessons, you may say, yeah, that's a lot of lessons,
Yes.
especially if you're in the ABA program.
So as we're completing the destination and it's time to grade the My State notebook, you're going to grade based on the directions that you gave your child to follow and the expectations, but there is a grading form in the Appendix H in the video manual on page D11 of the homeschool curriculum lesson plans that can be a real guide for you as the parent. And then know as you're completing your progress report for Rebecca Academy video or as you're completing the homeschool progress report in the back of your curriculum lesson plans, there are places, as always, to fill in the blanks for those quizzes that you took, for the tests that you took, of course, a grade for the My State Notebook project. And if you're an accredited student with Rebecca Academy, you do not need to send in this completed project to us. You will simply use the grading form, record the grade on the line there. You will still send in the printed tests that you gave to your student, just like usual, but you will not need to send in the completed project to Rebecca Academy. So those are some helps to just finish the journey, to arrive at your destination, to be able to look back and say, wow, I really enjoyed that time with my child. We learned a lot about our state. I hope we've been able to share some things with you that will just help to make that journey more simpler in some senses, more simple, I should say, but definitely more enjoyable along the way. Make this an invaluable time together. Enjoy the precious memories. Teach them life skills of organizing information, of creatively displaying information. Those are job skills that they'll be able to use in the future. Think about a chance during this 30 lesson period, if you can, to take advantage of some things around your state, maybe that you've not explored before. Moms, dads, grandmas, grandpas, others helping these fourth graders this year, we are so excited about you embarking on this journey of the state history study. And we hope that we've been able to share some things with you today that will be helpful steps to make that journey successful and enjoyable.